General Hospital spoilers reveal that Jason is diving deeper into his pursuit of the truth about Dalton, a journey that, the further he goes, feels more like entering a labyrinth of sophisticated facades and dangerous underground connections. The initial clues Jason uncovered seemed fragmented, but when pieced together, they began to outline a complex portrait. Dalton is not just a professor but someone behind numerous covert operations involving technology, espionage, and even ties to Jason's old organization. These revelations make Jason realize that this isn't just a routine investigation, it's a silent war against a force trying to manipulate the system from within. Dalton appears to be hiding behind an academic persona to conceal his true role in a shadowy power network, where he not only controls information but also collects, manipulates, and influences key figures in Port Charles. Recent changes, such as Emma's unexplained expulsion or Jocelyn's sudden rise, bear the marks of a hidden hand pulling the strings. Jason can't ignore these suspicious coincidences, especially as those close to him begin falling victim to anonymous attacks, from character assassination to threats on their lives. With the instincts of a former agent, Jason understands that the most dangerous threat is often the one you can't see. And in Dalton's case, the danger lies not only in his intellect or secret connections but also in his ability to manipulate others psychologically with frightening precision. Jason is increasingly haunted by the thought that Dalton may not just be a pawn, but the mastermind at the heart of a dark power structure, where all information is controlled, everyone is watched, and truth is constantly distorted. As Jason digs deeper, he realizes he's becoming a target himself. Allies start vanishing or backing away, sources go silent, and the trail to Dalton grows fainter, as if an invisible hand is shielding him. This only confirms that Dalton is no ordinary man. He holds too many secrets and is willing to do anything to protect them. Jason knows he's in a dangerous game, where one wrong move could cause everything to collapse. But he also knows that unless he exposes the truth about Dalton, Port Charles will never be safe again. Because when a man like Dalton is manipulating from the shadows, freedom, justice, and even trust are under constant threat. And Jason, with all he's been through, refuses to let that happen without a fight. Jason is now entangled in a complex web where secrets, false identities, and intricate schemes dangerously intertwine. While many in Port Charles still see Dalton as a brilliant, influential academic, Jason has uncovered cracks in that illusion. Unusual behavior, shady connections, and access to high-security systems beyond any professor's reach all point to one chilling conclusion. Dalton isn't just dangerous, he's a strategic coordinator within a sophisticated underground organization tied to both the WSB and the DVX. Jason has discovered that Dalton has not only been monitoring but controlling Jocelyn and Emma's actions for months. Secret files on Emma's research, fabricated plagiarism accusations against Jocelyn, and even recordings of private conversations have all landed in Dalton's hands. This is more than an invasion of privacy, it's systemic manipulation. Jason believes Dalton is waiting for the right moment to unleash a devastating strike, either to control key players in Port Charles or destabilize the entire community. Especially as he moves closer to powerful figures like Sunny, Michael, and even Willow. With the information Jason has gathered, the truth is beginning to surface like silt rising after a storm. Dalton isn't just politically ambitious, he's capable of executing psychological warfare and espionage campaigns. His knowledge of Emma's true identity, not just Robert and Anna's granddaughter but someone secretly trained by intelligence organizations, makes the situation more dangerous than ever. Jason suspects Dalton deliberately drew Emma into his circle to extract strategic secrets from the WSB and is using Jocelyn's alleged misconduct to pressure Michael into compliance. While others are distracted by emotional turmoil from custody battles and exposed affairs, Jason knows the real threat doesn't lie in the courtroom, it's hidden in an encrypted data vault deep in a server that Dalton secretly controls. He holds evidence not just against Jocelyn, Emma, and even Drew, but has the power to unleash a cascade of political and personal scandals that could bring Port Charles's entire power structure crashing down like a house of cards. Jason understands that if Dalton isn't neutralized in time, the consequences won't just be reputational damage, a full-blown crisis will engulf the town. Dalton seems to have no clear weaknesses, he's emotionally detached, lacks personal ties, and always stays one step ahead. Jason knows he can't act recklessly, but time is running out. The longer he waits, the more likely it is that Dalton's data will be leaked or sold to foreign powers. Even worse, Jason suspects Dalton is orchestrating something much bigger. Using Jocelyn and Emma as key pieces in a plan to spark a trust crisis among Port Charles's powerful families, divide them, and install his own people in their place. Armed with this knowledge, Jason prepares to strike back. But this time, brawn and assassination skills won't be enough. He needs alliances, from Sunny, from Anna, even from those he once distrusted, like Valentine or Jordan. This isn't just a mission, it's a strategic chess match where every move could be a trap, and every ally a potential traitor. But Jason knows one thing for sure, if Dalton isn't taken down, there will be no Port Charles left to protect. And the cost could be the very lives of those Jason has sworn to protect at all costs. In a dramatic and deadly turn of events in Port Charles, Jason steps into a tense and explosive gunfight with Dalton, a dangerous adversary who holds both Britt and Liesel like pawns in a terrifying game of chess. This encounter isn't just a rescue mission. It's the climax of a long simmering chain of covert events, as Jason finally unmasks the true identity of Dalton, not merely an academic professor, but a manipulator backed by foreign underground forces, connected to DVX and high-level espionage networks. The survival of Britt and Liesel now rests solely in the hands of Jason, the only one with the experience, the cold resolve, and the desperation to walk into a battlefield from which he knows there may be no return. His final moves are calculated with precision: infiltrate the compound where Dalton is hiding, destroy the communication signal systems, and launch a solo assault with the hope of severing Dalton's control over the two women. However, things do not go as Jason expects. Dalton, like a venomous snake that anticipates every movement, has laid a trap. As Jason approaches Britt, gunfire erupts in the cold, dark air. He retaliates with every survival skill he has. Each bullet a declaration that he will never again allow anyone to be held hostage by monsters. Britt is slightly wounded, Liesel is in a state of panic. And Jason, his shirt soaked with blood, continues to fight until a massive explosion shakes the entire building. When the smoke settles, only bullet casings, debris, and haunting silence remain. Both Dalton and Jason have vanished without a trace. Jason's disappearance is not something Port Charles can easily accept. Rumors spread through the hospital, the police station, and every corner of town: Jason is dead. But some believe that, with the instincts of a cold-blooded killer who once escaped the deadliest of threats, Jason could still be alive, badly injured, imprisoned, or lying in wait to launch a devastating final strike. Yet this was not merely a failed rescue, it was a warning: Dalton isn't just one man. He's the extended hand of an organization capable of plunging Port Charles into chaos if left unchecked. The price Jason paid for his courage is steep. Britt, returned to the hospital, is haunted by guilt, because she was the reason Jason charged into a battle with no escape. Liesel, in tears, vows revenge, even if it means aligning with people she once despised. And Sunny, who once saw Jason as his irreplaceable right hand, is now consumed by rage, determined to wipe out everything Dalton ever touched. This event etches a deep, unhealed wound in the hearts of those left behind and casts a looming shadow over all of Port Charles. No one knows whether Jason is truly dead or alive, but everyone understands. A new chapter has begun, one written in blood, betrayal, and the price of absolute loyalty. And if Jason is still alive, he will return, not as a hero, but as a nightmare of vengeance, to end everything Dalton ever started. The story is pushing everything beyond control as Port Charles's key players are forced into a deadly game of chess. Jason, thought to have sacrificed himself in the brutal clash with Dalton, unexpectedly returns to the two women he saved, Britt and Liesel. No one can believe their eyes when Jason walks through the hospital doors, still bearing unhealed wounds but with an unwavering gaze. He has returned from the dead, bringing with him a truth long buried and a seismic shift no one in Port Charles could have foreseen. Sunny, Spinelli, and Britt, who quietly mobilized every resource to find their missing brother, are not only overjoyed to see Jason alive, but they also realize that his return isn't just to finish an unfinished mission, it's the trigger for a wave of upheaval like never before. Jason's return is not just a miracle, it marks the beginning of psychological and political tremors in a town already riddled with secrets. His destruction of Dalton's operations revealed troves of data related to DVX, covert agreements, and especially Dalton's ties to forces manipulating biotechnology and artificial intelligence. But even more, Jason's actions unintentionally healed the rift between Jocelyn and Emma, two young women who were once best friends, torn apart by Dalton's calculated deceptions. Jason exposed the traps, falsified evidence, and emotional manipulations Dalton used to divide them, helping Jocelyn and Emma finally open up to one another after a long, cold silence. Yet, revealing these truths doesn't only bring salvation, it also sparks the next wave of crisis. The people behind Dalton haven't disappeared, and they now view Jason as a dire threat that must be eliminated. Sunny, leveraging his vast underground intelligence network, is forced to widen his control and coordinate with Spinelli and Britt, not just to protect Jason, but to prepare for the coming storm of retaliation. Jason's data also reveals a list of anonymous collaborators operating right within Port Charles, individuals believed to be neutral, even close to the main characters. When Jason decides to bring this evidence to the city council and the police to uproot the conspiracy, he simultaneously pulls everyone, Sunny, Carly, Jocelyn, Emma, into an unrelenting spiral of action and revenge. Liesel, though rescued, is now caught in an international investigation over her potential ties to the biological experiments discovered in Dalton's facility. Britt, once again, finds herself under the suspicious eye of the public and media, as questions arise. Why is she always at the center of medical crises? Jason's return doesn't bring peace, it fans the embers of destruction still smoldering beneath the surface. And as former victims become new threats to the old power structures, a battle not just for survival, but for justice, honor, and buried secrets, will erupt in the heart of Port Charles. Amid the chaos, Jason is no longer the quiet man in the shadows, he is the torch illuminating bloody truths that everyone is afraid to face. And this time, he won't stop until every last enemy falls. Jason's disappearance after the bloody confrontation with Dalton was not just a standalone event, it was the beginning of the most silent and ferocious storm ever to engulf Port Charles. On the surface, familiar faces still appear at the hospital, coffee shop, police station, or Corinthos docks. But beneath that calm shell, waves of suspicion, fear, and personal scheming rise like the tide before a storm. Jason, the symbol of silence and loyalty, the man who balanced between shadow and light, has vanished without a word. And his absence is the fatal void that begins to crack the power structure of Port Charles. Before disappearing, Jason destroyed one of Dalton's secret data centers on the city's edge and successfully rescued Britt and Liesel from an underground lab, where Dalton conducted unethical biological experiments. However, the mission didn't go smoothly. Amid the chaos, Dalton opened fire. Jason was injured but still got them out. The last time anyone saw him, he was helping Britt to the riverbank near a burning warehouse. After that, he disappeared, no signal, no trace, no body. That's why people worry more than they mourn, because Jason doesn't fall easily. When Sunny heard about the explosion and Jason's disappearance, he didn't react with weakness or despair. Instead, he became colder, more decisive, sharper than ever. Sunny knew that if Dalton dared target Jason, he was no longer a shadowy rival but an open threat. And that could mean only two things. Either Dalton had gathered enough data to manipulate the entire city, or he was hiding a secret far bigger than just holding Jason captive. Spinelli was summoned immediately to trace any leftover signals from Jason's devices. Carly quietly visited Britt and Liesel at the hospital, hoping to glean some clue from their memories. But the biggest shock came from a secret Liesel revealed in delirium. Dalton was not just a scientist or a bioweapons dealer, he had once been part of an international intelligence project classified as top secret by the WSB. As the days passed with no news, fear spread like mold through every familiar room of the hospital and police department. The police couldn't open an official investigation. There was no evidence of kidnapping or death. The WSB denied any involvement. DVX vanished from the map. But those closest to Jason, Elizabeth, Dante, Sam, knew that if nothing surfaced, someone was deliberately wiping all traces clean. Meanwhile, deep beneath an abandoned monastery near the Canadian border, Jason survives in critical condition. He is gravely wounded and being treated by a mysterious man, someone indebted to him from years ago. During a mission Jason barely remembers. Every day, Jason battles pain and chaotic flashbacks of gunfire, screams, and Britt's trembling eyes as she thought he had died. But what haunts him most is the name Dalton whispered before vanishing into the darkness, Emma, and Jocelyn. In that moment, Jason knew this wasn't just between him and Dalton. It was a long-engineered conspiracy linking the past, present, and future of Port Charles. Emma, the girl once thought safe as a gifted student, might hold a code, a project, or a kind of data Dalton desperately wants. And Jocelyn, the symbol of a new generation, has been drawn into a war she doesn't even know exists. As Jason heals, he knows he can't wait any longer. Port Charles is heading into a new era of chaos. Sonny begins to suspect even those closest to him. Carly is torn between worry and the truth that if Jason lives, all the secrets she's buried, including helping Nina avoid investigation, will come to light. Dante faces a leak of internal files that could link to Dalton and DVX. And in the shadows, Dalton, though unseen, is activating his final pieces in a destructive endgame. When Jason returns, and he will, it won't be just to reclaim honor or save the wounded. He will return to end the war he never started but is the only one capable of finishing. Because this time, the enemy isn't hiding in darkness, they've infiltrated every home, every relationship, every power in Port Charles. And this time, only one man can set it all right, that man is Jason. But the price of victory may be his soul, his blood, and the ultimate sacrifice. Britt was no longer just a wounded doctor trying to reintegrate into life in Port Charles. She had become a woman haunted, driven by an uncontrollable obsession and a single, unyielding goal. To bring Jason back, no matter the cost, whether it be her reputation, her career, or even her life. The name Jason was no longer a sweet memory of love or a ghost from the past. It had become the only lifeline anchoring her to reality, the call that pushed her beyond ethical boundaries, beyond legal limits, to face every danger she had once feared. Right after Jason disappeared following the gunfight with Dalton, all official reports claimed he had died. But Britt didn't believe it. She had been there. She had heard his heartbeat as he collapsed in her arms, had seen the unwavering fire in his eyes, not the gaze of a dying man. She knew Jason, a warrior who never surrendered. If he had even one breath left, he would fight to survive. And she would be the one person who would never leave him behind. That marked the beginning of a dark and dangerous journey, one Britt couldn't turn back from. She started by tracking down erased medical records, falsified patient files. Medical tracking signals Jason once used during his time as an undercover operative. Britt knew how to read the covert tracking codes WSB embedded in elite agents. Though unauthorized, she secretly accessed GH's old servers, even hacking into the military medical system through a forgotten connection at a clinic in Albany. She gathered blurry security footage. Even bribed a former employee of an international group linked to DVX. Gradually, a chilling picture emerged: Dalton hadn't died. He had been gravely injured and extracted by a group of mercenaries working for an underground organization. But more than that, among the rescued was a man whose physical description matched Jason's. Blurry videos, removed news segments, abruptly ended phone calls, everything pointed to one thing: Jason wasn't dead, he was captured. It was possible he was being held to be reprogrammed as a memoryless assassin, using the very thing he once was, a loyal, emotionless warrior. And as this horrifying truth unfolded, Britt found herself beyond the point of choosing whether to continue or stop. She had gone too far. She had left the hospital, sold her only apartment in Port Charles, and now lived under a false identity to avoid detection. Liesel begged her to come back, but Britt sent only a note with one line: "I can't come home while he's still imprisoned like a shadow." She told no one where she was going, left no trace, carrying only a small pistol and an old, faded photo of her and Jason, taken after he saved her from Cyrus Renault. That was the only thing keeping her grounded through the cold, sleepless nights full of lurking danger. The deeper she dug, the more she realized Jason wasn't the only one being held. There were deeper secrets surrounding Jocelyn, Emma, and Dalton. All were entangled in a complex network controlled by forces more powerful than even DVX or the WSB. Britt discovered Dalton had access to an experimental mind control technology. And Jason, with a brain previously affected by neural control chips during his time under Helena Cassadine, was the ideal host for a final trial. If the plan succeeded, Jason would no longer be Jason. He would become a living weapon, without memory, without empathy, following only orders. Faced with that possibility, Britt had no choice. She had to find him before it was too late. She covertly contacted Spinelli, providing him with all the data she had collected. Spinelli, who had loved Jason like a brother, immediately began developing algorithms to trace Jason's brainwave frequencies using old neurological scans from Jason's time at the clinic. Carly, though initially furious at being kept in the dark, joined the search when she realized Jason being alive might be the only hope left to salvage the crumbling pieces of her life. But it was Britt who somehow tracked down the final facility Jason had been taken to, a covert biological research center beneath the basement of an abandoned hospital in Pennsylvania. She planned a solo infiltration. But before she could act, unknown agents arrived. A gunfight broke out. Amid the smoke and gunfire, Jason stepped forward, without the faintest recognition of who she was. Britt broke down between fear and hope. Her voice trembling, she called his name. Jason looked at her blankly. 1 second. 2 seconds, and then his eyes flickered. A flash of awareness. And in the chaos, he caught her as she fell, murmuring her name for the first time, Britt. Just one word. But to Britt, that word meant everything. It was proof that no matter how the world turned, no matter how his mind had been wiped, somewhere deep inside, Jason was still Jason. And she, despite the obsession, the pain, was the only one who dared cross every line to bring him back.